A stripe shortage, another stripe shortage, and trouble rolls into my hometown. Let's use our heads and figure it out on today's Use Your Head podcast. Greetings and felicitations from Dallas, Texas. This is the Use Your Head podcast. I'm your host, John McLean, delighted to be with you for another exciting foray into the news of the day and how we, as independent thinking human beings, can brush aside what we're told to think and use our heads. Figure it out. That's what we do here at the Use Your Head podcast from Dallas, Texas. As I said, I am John McLean, and I am thrilled to pieces that you have decided to spend about half an hour with us together as we parse through the narratives and noise of the day and simply engage our brains. That was one thing my late mother used to say. Engage your brain, son. This is when I was young shaver, you understand, and had a tendency to not opt for using it. Engage your brain, son. Engage it. Turn it on. Use your head. It's one of the most powerful gifts we're given by our Creator is the ability to reason and use our head. Don't be lazy and let someone else do it for you. For crying out loud, use your head. Thank you for listening, by the way, wherever you are. We're all across the web on all kinds of platforms, and you can reach out to me anytime and even participate in the program via email. John at useyourheadpodcast.com is available to you 24/7. Whatever's on your mind, complaints, suggestions, send me a recording if you want to ask a question or tell me that I was completely off base and I'm an idiot last week or whatever. You might be right. I'm honest. Sometimes I swing and miss. In fact, when I played baseball, I often swung and missed, but I swung. I tried to use my power to drive the ball out of the ballpark, and, the metaphor is that we try to use our heads. That was kind of lame, so we'll leave it behind and get on to topic number 1 today. There is a severe stripe shortage right now. Did you know about this? You should. A severe stripe shortage on the field. Yeah, we're talking about the zebras that make the call, that throw the laundry, and often get called all kinds of terribly vile names. Yeah, there's a officials shortage. We're going to talk about football, the old gridiron. Whoa, Nelly. There is a referee shortage in lots of places across America. The story I found is from Lake Charles, Louisiana, from KPLC, written by Stephanie Obedeku. From Lake Charles, the story says this: high school sports season is right around the corner, but there is a growing problem, a major referee shortage. By the way, quick aside, when I read the first line of this story, and I'm not criticizing Steph here, she's writing very, very well. I've read this article. It's great. It's a good article. But a long time ago when I was in radio, I got in this, you get in a rut where you say the same thing over and over. It happens even now. I probably do it on this show. But I got in a rut that drove one of my program directors crazy at a station I was at. I got in the rut of saying that so-and-so, let's say, pick a record. I don't know. Let's say, Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin is around the corner. And he'd come in after the show and he'd say, I don't know about you, but my radio doesn't have corners. And I made the mistake of saying, well, if it's square, it has corners. And he's like, stop saying around the corner. And I realized I was saying it way too much. Anyway, that reminded me of this. Starting again, high school sports season is right around the corner. But there's a growing problem, a major referee shortage. Athletic directors at all levels have seen a steady decline in sports officials over the past 20 years. It's tough to find officials because no one wants to do it. You have to want to do it, said Leday. We're going to find out later who Leday is. And then there is the age issue. All right. Right now, the majority of referees in our area, we're talking about Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I think this is probably true nationwide. Right now, the majority of the referees in our area are over 50 years old. That's not old, by the way, but it is old if you're going to be out in the sweltering night running up and down the field, chasing a bunch of kids. All right. It's tough work. Ledet goes on. 60% of the officials throughout the whole state of Louisiana in all sports are over the age of 50, so we have to come up with some way to replace those men and women when they go to retire. It takes 6 officials to referee one high school football game, and with 29 teams in our viewing area, adjustments had to be made by moving some of those games to Thursdays instead. So now you're overworking these officials, right? Now they got to do Thursday and Friday night, but they got to do something, right? So Nick Ledet, by the way, is the Ward 3 athletic director, and he says they're making do with date adjustments, but that might not be the case soon. Ledet goes on. We're talking long-term in the future, and the way the number has been going over the past 10 to 15 years, it has been declining. And if we don't get the next generation of officials in, then yes, you'll definitely see the effects of it. Ledet says that this job isn't a walk in the park because the men and women in the stripes go through a lot on the field. It's easier to make an opinion from the stands than it is to be the official on the field making those tough calls, said Ledet. Listen. This is a big deal in sport. I mean, listen, go to any sports, go up to your favorite sports grill where there's all the TVs are on. And there's people screaming and yelling. Everything the official does is wrong. The official's on the take, all this kind of stuff. And it's really a hard job. It's a thankless job. Nobody has a poster of a referee on their wall. Okay, so if you disagree with the star player, guess who is going to get yelled at? Guess who is the GOAT in the situation? And I don't mean the Tom Brady kind. I'm talking about the bah kind. So it's a tough job. Ledet says if more people don't decide on wearing the stripes, Friday nights may go dim. So this Ledet gentleman, his name's Nick Ledet. He's the Ward 3 athletic director. He's saying, look, high school football is in jeopardy because no one wants to put on stripes and run up and down in the 90% humidity in the sweltering night and get screamed and yelled at and called all kinds of names. And, now there are still a number of people that do it because they're passionate, not just about the game of football, but about youth sports and the things that it does for our youth. A lot of very positive things. And so they're out there supporting these kids and letting sports teach them a little something about life, preparing them for adulting, which, by the way, is very similar to football. All right. You put on a uniform, you go out in the world, you get beat around and often lose when you didn't deserve to. I mean, I'm not being a pessimist. I'm not being a Debbie Downer. I'm just saying that's life, right? You go out in life and you have to learn how to lose. And this is the thing that sports teaches kids that is the most valuable and why we should always keep score and we should always have a winner and always have a loser is because in life, you're going to lose and you're going to lose a lot more than you win. And when I use my head, it tells me that these sports are teaching these kids a valuable lesson, how to lose with grace and with dignity and how to let it motivate you to win next time, how to learn. This is the value of sports, not the 1 in 10,000 chance that you're going to get some big contract and be able to retire at 30 a gazillionaire. And if that's you, good for you. Most of these kids are never going to play again when they get out of school, but the lessons that they learn from coaches and, yes, from good officials who are invested in doing a thankless job for virtually no money, and we'll get to that later, it's a valuable role to play. It's a role model is what it is. It's a role model. It teaches you that sometimes life isn't fair. Look, when a referee blows a call, that's not fair, right? Yeah, that's not fair. And they did. Life isn't fair. Let it go. This is why I don't like instant replay. I'm not going down that bunny trail, but we'll do that on a different show sometime, and I'll tell you why I think instant replay in all sports is a terrible thing. Anyway, so they're aging out in Louisiana. The officials are aging out, and look, it's grueling. Have you ever watched a referee in a football game at any level? They run up and down the field constantly, depending on their position. But like the back judges, side judges, they're running up and down the sidelines, back and forth, and they stop to get screamed at, and then they keep going. It is a tough job. And you're out there doing this with athletes that are 1/3 your age. It's tough, which is often why a lot of officials, especially in the bigger leagues, you look at these old, officials, middle-aged, and they're in good shape. They have to be, or they won't survive. All right, that's football. Baseball, a little less important to be fit. Not mentioning any names, but a little less important. But in football, you're running. Hockey too. We'll talk about that. But that's the big kids. All right, but there's another problem that's happening in this same topic for the little kids, and so I'm going to call this Topic 1A on the Use Your Head podcast. For the little kids, there's a shortage of officials for their sports for a very different and darker reason. Yeah, you probably guessed. Here's a story out of Florida from Tony Atkins. Tony writing for WESH Channel 2 down there. Tony says, Florida parents' behavior at youth sports events impacting referee shortages. All right, Tony, what do you got to say? Dateline, Lake County, Florida. In sports, it's just a game is a phrase that can help people deal with a tough loss or a bad call. That's a great opening line, by the way, Tony. Great opening line because there's a lot of truth and wisdom there. But as all stories go, there's always a but or a however in this case. He says, however, in some cases, things can go from bad to worse. WESH2 spoke with a number of stakeholders in youth sports about how adult behavior at games is having an impact on recruiting officials. Channel 2's Tony Atkins visited a soccer field in Leesburg, Florida, where playoffs are underway for a group of kids, and some of these games are competitive. "Let's go, Maddie," said Sakina Gaines, Maddie's mom. If you weren't paying attention, you might have thought Gaines was the coach through her passionate cheers and encouragement. While many of the parents there are hyped about the game, the parents we saw in Leesburg were all having a good time. "It's for them to enjoy themselves. Group with different kids, enjoy themselves," said Gaines. "I think it just brings camaraderie between family and team, no matter if they win or lose," said Rachel Server, another parent. However, this isn't always the case. Time and time again, we've seen the brawls and punches at youth sporting events. Some facilities are even posting signs now, reminding parents these are kids and it's just a game. Time out here. Isn't that pathetic? That we have to, and I've seen them. We've all seen them. If you've got kids in sports, your field, your facility probably has a sign posted near the gate saying, "Hey, parents, listen, remember, all right, this is a game. Our kids are trying to learn to learn a little bit about life and to make them better functioning adults. Let's not show them the wrong way to be adults by acting like barbarians." We have to remind parents, they're kids. It's just a game, okay? So please try not to kill or maim your fellow spectators. But it happens all the time. We see it on social media. Quan Isom, an Apopka dad, or is that Apopka? I don't live down there. I'm sorry if it's APOPKA. Dad was arrested in October for allegedly pulling a gun at his son's Pop Warner football game after other parents told him their kids were better players. So it's like road rage, but it's sports rage, I guess. In May 2022, Jorge Aponte Gonzalez was caught on camera sucker punching a referee at an Osceola County baseball game. The unsportsmanlike offenses warranted more than a yellow card. They warranted criminal charges. "I've gotten mobbed by parents for not letting a child play for an injury that was sustained. I've seen parents talk bad about parents' weight, age, and disability. They're at least out there for the kids," referee Victor Burgos said. Burgos is a referee for various levels of soccer and for Pop Warner football. He said parents' bad behavior has an impact on refereeing. In some cases, he's been forced to stop games entirely. "It's for the children," he says, "not the coach, not the parents. Let them play out. Let them go, whether it's a win or loss. But when they have to storm the field and make something more than it should be and you have to stop a game and they forfeit, you see the kids totally confused," said Burgos. I want to tell you, this to me is very sad. I mean, I can remember as a little leaguer the excitement of slipping on that uniform, and I had no illusions about being, Babe Ruth someday. I was built like the Babe, but that's not the point. The point is, it was exciting to get out there, and when you have a bunch of parents And again, this is not college level. This is not even high school. This is little kids. And you've got parents that can't control their behavior and fly into rage and start beating each other up or storming the field or assaulting officials to where the officials have to say, listen, this is unsafe. I'm calling the game. It's over. The faces of the kids are what breaks the heart, right? I mean, the parents are morons. The kids, though, are the victims. Isn't that always the case? When parents behave badly, it's the kids that suffer. And it's the same thing is true on the baseball diamond or on the Pop Warner field or wherever you are, soccer field. The kids get robbed of the experience of playing a game. And so to you parents, by the way, who think you're tough and maybe trying to, even though you'll never admit it, living vicariously through your kids because they're doing something maybe you couldn't do or can't do anymore, shame on you. All right, because you're breaking your kids' hearts and you're robbing them of a great experience as a child. Would it kill you? But stop ruining and showing your children the wrong way to watch a game and the wrong way to teach your kids. All right? Not sorry. It's true. If you're out there engaging this kind of behavior because that was not a strike, so what? Because a lot of times in your kid's life, overheated mom or dad spectator, your kid's going to go out into the world and is going to get treated unfairly. In many, many cases, what lesson would you have them learn? Pull out a gun and shoot the person who treated you unfairly? Do you want your kid to spend the rest of their life in jail or worse? Or do you want to learn and teach them that sometimes a call gets blown. Sometimes the other team wins when they didn't deserve to. But sometimes life isn't fair, and the winners in life will learn to deal with it, to walk away, brush it off, learn from it, if there's lessons there to be learned, and there often are, and move on. So now we've got a shortage of stripes in youth sports because parents are abusing these officials. All right? I want to tell, before we leave this whole official thing, I want to tell a couple of personal stories. Back to the stripe shortage in Louisiana. My cousin is a referee for high school football for small schools, but it's full 11 on 11 football. All right. And it is shocking how much money these officials, they're almost volunteers because they, there's a small gas allowance, but it's tiny. It's never enough to get out to the game and back. Their locker room facilities are often things like broom closets that aren't being used. Or they have these officials are doing this for the love of doing it. There is no other reason a sane person would do this. Okay. But they're out there doing it. I saw my cousin the other day and I asked him, has the season started where you are? And he says, well, yeah, almost next week, but this is scrimmage week. And he says, in fact, I got a scrimmage tonight. I got to drive out to a little town and do a scrimmage tonight for a team. And I said, well, what do you get for scrimmages? And he goes, oh, it's a deep discount. We get nothing. And I said, nothing? Why would you do it for nothing? And he said, well, if you don't do it, you don't get to officiate during the season. So it's kind of like, he says, it's sort of like an audition, but it's really about a statement of commitment. So he's driving and it's over 100 degrees still in Oklahoma, where he's an official. He's driving out there to this school, doing this for the kids, and coming back and coming out in the red for scrimmage day. And he says, frankly, if the game is very far away, I will almost break even. And he does it anyway, and I salute him for that, because he does it because he cares about his community and his kids, and he's good at it. He has a skill, he's very analytical in his mind, and he's able to see things and think, he has the gifting to be a good official. He has a strong sense of fairness and justice. That's just kind of how he's wired. And so he uses that for the benefit of youth in his community, high school youth in his case. He's not treated very well. And so I can see why, and he is in his 50s. He's one of these over 50. Barely. He's almost 50. He'll be 50 in a couple months, so he's almost in that category. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you over 50, bud. He's close. He's months away. I'll tell you another story about the parent problem in youth sports, and then we'll move on to something else. when I was in college, and I don't remember really what got me into this, but when I was in college, I played roller hockey for a time. Inline skates were cool then. And this was the 90s, early 90s. And I played roller hockey intramural at college. It wasn't a sanctioned sport. It was just an intramural as a club. And I played, and I was a goalie. And I really, really liked it. I still love hockey of any kind. I love the thrill of hockey. Hockey is like soccer, only way more exciting because the field in soccer is way too big. Anyway, I like hockey. And I played for a while. And toward the end of the first season as a goaltender, and I wouldn't say I was really good, but I wasn't terrible. I was kind of one of those middle of the road guys. I was decent. I suffered a concussion. It was a thing where somebody swept my skates out from under me. I hit head first in the back of my head, saw the stars, blacked out. It was one of the most horrifying experiences of my life, so much so that I ended up giving up. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. All right. It scared me. But I still wanted to be involved. And so what I decided to do is I took a test and I became an official with USA Hockey, which was the governing body for the roller hockey leagues in the region. And I was a referee for a time, a very short time, 2 games, in fact, because in the second game, I'm officiating a game, and most of these players are either they're either college students or young adults, 20-somethings. So these aren't even children playing the game. And I was so abused. And I can take the insults and the shouting, and that's fine. But when they start throwing things at me on the rink, and when I have to be escorted to my car by security guards because people are threatening to follow me home and to harm me, which did happen. Okay, this was not NHL. This was recreational. Hey, we're playing for fun, and after the game, let's go have pizza and beers or whatever. It's like bowling night. This was hockey night. I decided, you know what? This is not worth the $50 per game that I was getting paid, even though it was a lot of fun. So I understand what it feels like to be abused. And listen, you see a bad call, you say, you're blind. That's fine. That's part of sport. Okay. Throwing beer at an official, which, by the way, will get you thrown in jail, and rightfully so, because that's assault, which is a crime, or running onto the field or threatening to harm someone. You're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. All right. So cut it out. Stop doing that, and don't be part of the problem. And maybe we can do away with our stripe shortage in the near future. And see, that's part of the point. If people that use their head are not going to behave this way. All right. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're using your head, you're not going to have that problem. Anyway, this is the Use Your Head podcast. I'm John McClain. Topic number 2 today. Trouble comes to my hometown. Well, we got trouble, my friends. We got trouble right here in Edmond, Oklahoma. Yeah, I found this story, and this story was posted today on August 27th by Amy Furr from Breitbart. A reported 100 vehicles showed up to rally outside a high school in Edmond, Oklahoma on Monday after students were told they could not fly the American flag. Boy, let me tell you, you high school kids got to get a grip. I mean, what kind of unbelievable... Wait a minute. Flying the American flag? That's not allowed in Edmond, Oklahoma? The demonstration happened at Edmond North High School, where locals gathered to push back against Edmond Public Schools' flag rule, which has drawn much criticism, reported local station Fox 25. All right, quick context here. I didn't go to Edmond North. When I was there, there was no Edmond North. Edmond North was what they called a mid-high, which was a 9th and 10th grade school, and I did attend there for part of my day. It's a long story. I had an interesting schedule, but I was out there for an hour. But shortly after I left, the town exploding in growth, they now have multiple high schools. I don't even know how many they have now. Edmond North is now a high school. Okay. I didn't go there. I went to the original Edmond, which is now called Memorial High School. Anyway, that's not pertinent to the story. An image shows a pickup truck, which is very common in Oklahoma, believe it or not, belonging to a young man, a student, who flew an American flag. Now, I'm looking at a picture of this, and it's a sight gag, but I'm going to try to describe it to you. This guy's got an old Ford pickup truck that he obviously enjoys working on because he's got a lot of projects, it looks like, on the truck that are pending. I love that. And he's got what you've seen these, right? He's got a pole stuck in one of the stake pockets of his pickup bed with looks like probably a 3x5 American flag. And so when he drives down the road, this flag just flutters in the breeze. You've seen this, right? And so he drives to school with this flag in there. Okay. There's nothing, I don't see a gun rack, which, by the way, when I was in high school, you could still have those. I don't see a gun rack in the back window. I don't see anything threatening. It's just an old high school kid's pickup truck with an American flag in it. All right. Students are not allowed to display or bring any kind of flag on campus to limit distraction and create a safe environment, said an Edmond Public Schools spokesperson. Video footage shows a line of vehicles at the campus with large American flags. So basically what happens, the news gets out, this kid gets in trouble, and people find out about it, and hundreds of people line up putting these flagpoles on their cars. Pickup trucks, SUVs, all kinds are flying this. They're basically saying, up yours, Edmond Public Schools. High school senior Caleb Horst said he was told Wednesday that he was not allowed to fly the American flag flying on the back of his pickup truck, said local station KOCO. I've never really had a problem with it before, and it's our First Amendment, so it's kind of hard for them to infringe upon our rights, Yeah, Caleb, that makes all the sense in the world. I'm with you, buddy. He told the outlet, in the end, we're all American. We're all united under that flag, so there's not much anybody can do to separate us, he added. In a video posted Monday, Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Walters slammed the rule and said, quote, no school in Oklahoma should tell students they can't wave an American flag, end quote. Amen, Superintendent Walters. The superintendent continued, we've had Americans die for that flag, die for students to have the right to carry the flag, to wave the flag, to be proud of that American flag. My department right now is working on guidelines that we will be issuing to districts to ensure that no student is ever targeted for having an American flag, and also that our schools will promote patriotism. We want our young people to be patriotic. We want them to love this country. And we're going to continue to support our young people to have the greatest understanding of American history and the country and to be proud of our country. That's Superintendent Ryan Walters. So in Oklahoma, they have a state superintendent. Not the case in all states, but that's the way they do it in Oklahoma. In a post on Thursday, Walters noted that Edmond Public Schools has a history of prioritizing woke agendas over our history and our freedoms. We will investigate, and I will act. Ooh, I like this Ryan Walters. Listen, I went to Edmond Public Schools. When I was there in the 80s, none of this garbage was going on. We said the Pledge of Allegiance, standing, with our hands over our hearts. It was not optional. You did it. And you looked at the flag, and nobody whined, nobody complained, nobody felt offended. We just did it. And we were taught that it was a good thing to do because we were citizens of the United States of America. And I never thought, well, that's not true. I guess the realist in me, as I use my head, thought that someday that these people, these whining people, would worm their way into the administration. And I don't know who's making these rules at the Edmond Public Schools, but you people need to get a grip and give up on the power trip. Stop bullying students with your own personal agendas. You're wrong, and you need to stop bringing your garbage into the lives of our kids. All right? Stop bullying them because they have the brains, as this young gentleman named Caleb said. Where was his quote? I'm going to read it again because it's really, really good. Whereas Caleb said this, he says, I've never really had a problem with it before, and it's our First Amendment, so it's kind of hard for them to infringe upon our rights, you know? As if some Edmond public school official has the right to infringe on the First Amendment. You go, Caleb. Good for you. And good for all of you that stood up, because now they've gotten the attention of the state superintendent, and he's kind of PO'd. He says, I will act. We will investigate, and I will act. So, Edmond Public Schools, if your goal was to get the attention, you did it. Congratulations. We win. Where has the time gone? 30 minutes gone already. Thanks for being with us on the Use Your Head podcast, the show where we use logic and reason to get through the issues of the day. Before we go, I was thinking back briefly to the referee story, the shortage. I am surprised that some goofball somewhere has not suggested AI as the answer. Well, if the officials are aging out, they don't want to do the work. They're getting thirsty and tired running up and down the field. And by the way, they're human, so they blow lots of the calls anyway. We'll just have robots and lasers and, super mirrors and cameras do the work. No one has suggested that I've heard, although in Major League Baseball, they're monkeying with these ideas. Robo-umps, the electronic strike zone and all this kind of stuff. I'm delighted that no one has been suggesting such things, but I'm surprised. I hope they don't suggest it, and I hope we find people that care enough to go out there and, do the job that we need. We need more stripes. Maybe that's you. We need officials that can use their head and do their best as humans, fallible humans, to make the right call. We're out of time. Thanks for being with me. I will see you next week on the Use Your Head podcast. Until then, whatever you read, whatever you say, whatever you're told, whatever the school board says, use your head. Bye-bye.